Hello, hello. Can you hear me, Rick?
Yes, I can hear you fine.
Okay, Chef, Mom?
Yep.
Okay, cool. Here we go again.
I'm Rick Bayless, and you're listening to HRN.
And how do you cook your white rice? You know, your rice. One of the things that I found fascinating when I was doing research for this piece is that I took out 7 cookbooks from well-known Mexican chefs in the United States and in Mexico. Everyone cooks rice in a completely different way.
But don't most of them start by sautéing the raw rice in some oil or some kind of fat? Don't most of them do it that way?
No, no, no. They start with soaking.
Well, soaking, I mean after the soaking part of it, yeah. But then the next step after that is the frying the raw rice in some kind of oil.
Until it sounds like sand.
Yeah, until it sounds like sand. And it really does sound like sand when you get it to the right place and it starts making that sound when you put it, especially if you put like a wooden spoon or something through it, it starts having that sound like you're stirring rice. It's super cool. But I will say that one of the reasons that I think that the rice really took root from the bringing it over to Veracruz is because that method of cooking rice really is something that came all the way across North Africa with the Arabs and then into Spain. And then the Spaniards learned to cook rice that way for several reasons, but they learned to cook it that way. And then they brought that, I think, over to Mexico. And for me, I think it's that sort of because that's the standard way. Most people call it a pilaf style, where you saute the raw rice first in oil. But it's if you think about it, in that Arab world, they love lots of little tiny pieces of stuff. I mean, if you just think about couscous and stuff, and most of the rice that was grown around there was a shorter grain rice, which just cooks up really sticky. And if you saute it in oil first, then it separates into those beautiful things. I mean, most paella recipes will tell you to start off with that shorter grain arborio rice and cook it in some fat first, and then make your paella with it.
Yeah, and I think the most traditional rice that people are accustomed to in Mexico is the long grain rice.
I disagree.
I'm with Zarela on this one. I know people eat the long grain rice, but that really famous the one rice from Morelos that is so famous in Mexico that has its own denomination of origin. That is the only rice in Mexico that has a denomination of origin. It's more like a medium grain rice. It's not like a long rice. I know a lot of people eat their long grain rice, but it's not my favorite. I agree with Zarela.
It does take more liquid, though, right? It's not the traditional 2-to-1 as you would imagine. So I think for people that are listening, just to get the distinction of the long grain versus the short grain, I think it's important to mention.
Yep, I agree.
Something that I found fascinating is that I was talking to some chefs, and they're using basmati or Texmari rice in their restaurants.
Not my favorite. Not my favorite. I'll tell you, it's not my favorite.
Like Roberto Santibáñez does in his cookbook.
But you know what, though? It does cook up really fluffy. There's no doubt about it. You can't make the stuff stick together. But I like the mouthfeel of a shorter grain. It's more meaty.
And also to your point, Chef Rick, the basmati does not absorb the flavoring as well as the long grain or a short grain. It almost has like a little shield. It has like a little shield to it that doesn't almost let the brand, if you will, to get that flavoring in there.
Este arroz ya se coció. That's what you say in Mexico. When something is over, this rice is cooked.
Gracias, Chef. Gracias, Chef. Abrazos.